Night falls over Nevada, and everything goes wrong. A prototype lies shattered on the runway. Contractors sprint in blackout, thermal covers, collapsing scaffolds, erasing evidence. In 3 minutes, a Soviet satellite will pass overhead. If even one reflection is caught, the entire project is exposed, generators cut, hangars seal shut. A voice whispers in the dark, 30 seconds, make it invisible. This isn't the story of how Area 51 began. This is the story of what almost revealed it. The mistakes, the shadows, and the silent war fought against the sky itself. Chapter 1. The People with No Names. For decades, most people imagined Area 51 as a military base. Pilots in uniform, briefings, ranks, rigid discipline. But that picture is wrong. Inside Groom Lake, the most powerful force wasn't the CIA, and it wasn't the Air Force. It was the contractors. Companies whose names were whispered inside secure rooms. EG&G, MITRE, Raytheon, Lockheed's Skunk Works. They weren't soldiers. They didn't wear insignias or dog tags. Most didn't even have official job descriptions. Their access badges weren't green or blue. They were white, clean, blank, untraceable. And for many workers, their identities stopped existing the moment they stepped off the Janet plane. Inside the base, they used first names only. Sometimes not even that. One engineer later said, "We didn't have colleagues. We had shadows that built things." These companies filled Groom Lake with people who had no career records, no military files, no documented missions. And whenever something went wrong, the advantage was obvious. No pilot to court-martial, no officer to question, no chain of command on paper, just a project and a cleanup crew. Chapter 2. The Flights That Never Existed. Every weekday at dawn, white Boeing planes lifted off from Las Vegas. No markings, no airline code, no destination screen. To the outside world, they were invisible. Inside aviation logs, they were labeled simply Janet. The employees joked the acronym meant just another non-existent terminal. But the truth was far darker. Those flights didn't carry soldiers. They carried contract workers, engineers, analysts, technicians, people whose skills were too valuable and whose projects were too sensitive to be trusted to any government structure. When a worker quit, the process was simple. His badge was shredded, his file was burned, his seat on Janet was filled the next morning. And if someone asked where he had been employed for the last 5 years, no record available. Chapter 3. The Network Behind Area 51. Area 51 was never meant to stand alone. Its real power came from a web of connected facilities across the American West. A network built not for convenience, but for secrecy. From Groom Lake, a convoy could reach Tonopah Test Range, where night flights and weapons tests were conducted far from prying eyes. Dugway Proving Ground, where sensitive materials, sensors, and classified payloads were evaluated. Edwards Air Force Base, the public face, the place where secret programs went to become official. And beyond them, the underground complex of the Nevada test site, whose tunnels and bunkers hid operations no military installation would admit performing. To this day, some analysts believe the bases are connected by underground transport routes, not tunnels for people, but reinforced shafts designed for moving equipment under the desert without satellite observation. Officially, such systems do not exist. Unofficially, too many workers have reported the same thing. Freight elevators that descended beyond known levels. Corridors where radios went dead. Rooms whose ventilation didn't match any map. One technician described it simply. Area 51 was the door. The real facility was behind the door. Chapter 4. The First Mistake the Soviets Saw. Late 1960s. A Soviet Zenit satellite passed directly over Nevada. Its cameras captured something that should not have been visible, a shadow that didn't match any known structure. It wasn't an aircraft they recognized, it wasn't a hangar shape they expected, and it was enough. Within hours, Washington received an alert. Moscow detected something at Groom Lake. Panic swept through the base. Contractors ran to cover equipment with thermal blankets. Gates slammed shut. Operations froze mid-test. For the first time, Groom Lake realized the world had changed. The USSR could now see them. And they had made a mistake. A prototype had been left outside during the satellite pass. The solution was immediate. Deception would become routine. Silence would become policy. Chapter 5. Operation Make It Invisible. From that day forward, Groom Lake became a master of deception. Not against spies, against the sky itself. Thermal distortion blankets. These weren't ordinary covers. They warped heat signatures, blurred outlines, and made prototypes look like random debris, false shadows. Engineers built lightweight frames around structures to fool satellite cameras into misjudging scale and shape. Movable roofs, massive hangar doors that could slide, tilt, or close like steel eyelids whenever a satellite approached. Paint coated for orbit runways were sometimes colored to match the exact tone of the surrounding desert, fading in and out as needed. Frozen operations the moment control received the warning. Echo pass, 3 minutes. Every engine, every generator, every tool shut off. Silence wasn't a suggestion. It was survival. One employee remembered the drill. We had 180 seconds to disappear. Chapter 6. The day everything went wrong. But deception can only go so far, and eventually it failed. In the mid-70s, a test went wrong during a satellite window. A classified platform, large, experimental, unstable, collapsed during transport. Debris scattered across the dry lake bed. Worse, some pieces reflected sunlight. When the Soviet satellite passed over, the scattered reflections formed a shape that did not look natural, a pattern too geometric to ignore. The satellite captured everything. Analysts in Moscow flagged the anomaly within hours. Washington panicked. Inside Groom Lake, every contractor was called into emergency cleanup. Metal shards were collected by hand. Fragments were buried, burned, melted, dissolved. By sunrise, half the lake bed was scarred from the work. But the damage was done. The U.S. Intelligence Board met in secret and issued a brutal directive. Deception is no longer enough. You must eliminate visibility entirely. That sentence changed Area 51 forever. Chapter 7. Going underground. From that point forward, the desert surface became simply a mask. The real expansion happened below. Under Groom Lake, contractors built reinforced test bays, sealed laboratories, deep vaults for exotic materials, sub-level hangars for storing prototypes, corridors with independent air systems, rooms that blocked all electromagnetic signals. Each addition made the base less dependent on surface structures and more resilient to foreign surveillance. Some workers said the underground complex was so extensive that you could walk for 20 minutes without seeing a doorway. And no map matched reality. Not even internal personnel had full layouts. Because secrecy wasn't just about hiding from the world, it was about hiding from each other. Chapter 8. The companies took over. As the underground section expanded, one truth became clear. Government agencies provided oversight, but contractors provided everything else. EG&G handled logistics, flights, power, sensors. Skunkworks oversaw experimental platforms. Raytheon integrated radar and counter-surveillance systems. MITRE analyzed intelligence and coordinated deception protocols. In many ways, the base functioned less like a military installation and more like a corporate laboratory. If something dangerous was needed, the government didn't request it officially. They asked a contractor, "Build us a system that can't be photographed. Design material that reflects zero light. Create a sensor that can see a satellite before it sees us." And the contractors delivered. One Skunk Works engineer said in an interview decades later, "We weren't building airplanes. We were building the tools to hide airplanes." Chapter 9. The Quiet War Above the Desert. During the Cold War, most battles involved proxies, propaganda, or political leverage. But around Groom Lake, there was a different kind of war, a war between satellites and deception. Every orbit was calculated, every reflection mattered, every shadow was a risk. One misaligned panel, one uncovered vent, one forgotten test platform, and the Soviets would see a clue the US could not afford to give. The margin for error was microscopic, and inevitably, errors happened. A trailer left a tire track too close to a restricted zone. A hangar door didn't shut all the way during a pass. A heat plume vented at the wrong time. Most incidents were minor. Others sparked panic. One night, a contractor noticed an object glowing on an infrared display, something that should have been cold. The base went into immediate lockdown. Equipment was pushed into underground bays. Lights cut. Generators shut down. When the satellite passed overhead, analysts held their breath. The object was still glowing, but now it looked like a natural rock formation heated by the sun. A lucky accident, nothing more. But inside Groom Lake, the message was clear. They were always a few errors away from being exposed. Chapter 10. The Present Silence. Decades later, the deception continues. New hangars have appeared. Runways have changed color. Sensors have evolved. Underground expansions continue. The contractors remain. Janet flights remain. Satellite avoidance remains. Area 51 isn't a monument to Cold War secrecy. It's an active system, a machine that adapts every time the sky learns a new way to look down. What happens inside today, no one will say. No records will confirm it. And every worker who knows signed a document promising silence that lasts beyond death. But one thing is certain. The mistakes they feared in the 60s haven't disappeared. They've only become more expensive, more dangerous, and much, much easier to detect if someone ever slips again. Because satellites today don't miss anything. And the desert is still full of shadows that move when they shouldn't.